Hey everyone, it's Friday, and welcome to Creative Cat Productions. More enthusiasm! Oh, and boy do we have a great show in store for you today. Maybe you've done a Google search for an old video game and you've come across the following website with its corny name and colorful logo, DK Oldies.
DK Oldies? What in the heck is that?
Well, I'm glad you asked. DK Oldies is an online used video game store located in Morgantown, Pennsylvania. A small town in eastern Pennsylvania that's home to popular landmarks, such as the Hollywood Casino, Cog Hill Winery, and the classic Auto Mall.
Whoa, cool!
And of course, there's DK Oldies, which appears to be housed within the remains of an abandoned Dollar Tree that is itself located within the remains of this run-down old strip mall.
Wicked!
The name DK Oldies seems to be an oblique reference to Donkey Kong, and the Oldies a reference to retro gaming. But the truth is, like a windowless van parked at the swap meet, DK Oldies will sell whatever they can get their hands on.
Whoa!
Here, DK Oldies is selling a Nintendo Wii system, in acceptable condition, for $70. Here's an Xbox 360 for $170. They sell used games for virtually every console, from the Atari 2600 all the way on to the Xbox One and Nintendo Switch. And according to them, DK Oldies will ship this stuff to anywhere on planet Earth. Even Afghanistan, where I'm pretty sure playing video games is still currently very, very haram.
Whoa!
Most people probably know DK Oldies for their popular presence on social media. And this guy, this is Joey. Joey is the host of the DK Oldies livestream, a popular web series that uploads pretty much every weekday, year-round. On TikTok, DK Oldies has 2.7 million followers. On Facebook, they have 1.5 million followers. And they also have 1.74 million subscribers on YouTube. Those are some pretty big numbers. And I have to admit, I'm actually a bit of a fan myself. It's all about Joey. Joey is the star. And there's something special about Joey that makes you want to keep watching. I mean, maybe it has something to do with his unique presentation and odd demeanor. Joey is plainly modeled a bit after your typical children's television host. Guys like Mr. Rogers or that dude from Blue's Clues. Friendly, non-judgmental, non-threatening, indifferent, calculating, constantly projecting a false sense of security. And yet, meanwhile, those cold, tortured eyes tell another story altogether. You know, that he could strike at any moment. But personally, I think he's just relaxing. Joey has a very cathartic, almost hypnotic presence, and I enjoy watching him carefully package people's orders, or casually talking about collections of games that people send to the store in exchange for their drug money. Yes, indeed, DK Oldies is something else. But even though they have their fans, DK Oldies is equally famous online for its many detractors. On YouTube, for instance, there's an entire subgenre dedicated exclusively to burying DK Oldies, in the form of detailed reviews and takedown videos. There are so many videos like this with massive view counts that this dude, PlainRock124, made a video mocking both DK Oldies and all of the shitty, desperate YouTube channels attempting to gain fame from dunking on them. It's really funny. So without further ado, let us present our own desperate attempt at notoriety by reviewing DK Oldies. Today at Creative Cat Productions, we will be answering the perennial question, is DK Oldies a scam? Because that seems to be the universal consensus according to YouTubers. DK Oldies is just a big old fat wet smelly scam, and you're bad for liking it. But what constitutes a scam? For DK Oldies to actually be a scam, two conditions must be met. First, customers need to be either tricked or coerced into giving DK Oldies money, and at the same time, customers must not receive the goods or services that DK Oldies describes on their website. The critics of DK Oldies constantly accuse the company of being a scam. And that's straight away a silly claim, because at no point, as far as I know, has DK Oldies ever tricked anyone out of giving them their money. The retort to this is that DK Oldies sells everything at a very elevated price, which is true, and that the high price for these items is indicative of a scam. But that would only be true if high prices were also involuntary and buyers had no other options.
No way, dude. Have you ever seen the prices at DK Oldies? They're higher than college chicks at a Jamaican bake sale, man. There's like no way that's not a total scam, dude. Look, they're charging $70 for a used Wii in acceptable condition. You can find one on eBay for like $50. Easy. I should know. I'm selling one. Wanna buy it?
Nay, on the contrary. While it's definitely true that DK Oldies is expensive, it's not unreasonably expensive. I compared the prices of 22 different Game Boy games across multiple websites, including listings on DK Oldies and eBay, and I found that on average, DK Oldies prices are about 47% higher than similar listings online. Only once was DK Oldies close to the best price. At the time of making this video, DK Oldies was selling Donkey Kong Land 2 for $16.99, which was a little bit cheaper than most alternatives. And a few times the prices at DK Oldies were way above typical, especially regarding the most popular and essential games for the Game Boy. For instance, DK Oldies was charging $40 for Super Mario Bros. Deluxe, a game that can be easily found for half that much money. But overall, across a lot of different popular games, DK Oldies was typically around 50% higher. And honestly, when you consider the DK Oldies business model, well, that makes perfect sense. DK Oldies doesn't operate like an eBay seller. eBay sellers are guys flipping games out of their homes, and they're incentivized to sell their inventory as fast as possible. The more sales, the more profitable their use of time. Further, their target market is hardcore gamers and collectors, and their cost of overhead is minimal. DK Oldies, on the other hand, is housed within a largish makeshift warehouse located in a strip mall that primarily markets itself to casual gamers looking to get into retro gaming for the very first time. Maybe old guys who want to relive the past, or maybe just dads who want to share their childhood with their kids. The point is, they're selling to people who are not already deeply invested in the hobby. I've watched a lot of their packing videos, and overwhelmingly, DK Oldies sells bundles of consoles with games, and typically when people buy these, they're getting all the big names to go with it. The Mario stuff, the Zelda stuff, Cow the Kangaroo. You get the picture. Therefore, DK Oldies has an incentive to raise the prices of these types of games very high on their website, because they need to keep these particular games in stock for when people come to them asking for a console and a set of hit titles. If Super Mario Bros. Deluxe was $20, like on eBay, well, guess what? Then it's going to be out of stock when someone goes online looking for a Game Boy Color. And therefore, DK Oldies risks losing out on a much bigger sale, because if people can't get the most high-profile games with their console, then they're going to go someplace else. Whoa! eBay guys don't have to worry about that. They just sell their stuff as soon as it comes, and therefore they really need to have lower prices. But you know what else eBay guys don't have to worry about? Overhead. DK Oldies is a fairly small business in the grand scheme of things, but they still seem to employ dozens of people, somewhere between like 60 or 70 from what I can tell, but it could probably be a lot more or less depending upon the season. eBay sellers, on the other hand, are typically one dude working out of his house. They don't have to pay rent for an abandoned Dollar Tree, pay for industrial packing materials, and all these employees doing all these different things, from buying to cleaning, testing, and most controversial of all, refurbishing old games. We'll talk more about that refurbishing later. The point is, with all these people and materials that need to be paid for, of course DK Oldies is going to cost more. On top of that, DK Oldies offers customer support and a 1-year warranty in all of the products they sell. In a way, considering all of this, keeping the price at just 50% is kind of miraculous. The truth is, everyone who's buying games and consoles off of DK Oldies knows exactly what they're paying for. It's 100% transparent what their prices are, and comparisons with other products across other websites are easy to make within seconds. Thus, the claim that DK Oldies is a scam is patently ridiculous. The only real question is whether or not DK Oldies is competent and can deliver a quality product according to their promises. And that says we're about to see a much more nebulous question to answer. To test the quality of DK Oldies as a service, let's examine my order of 10 different Game Boy games, which I made late in November 2024 as a Christmas gift for my 4 oldest children. The order was filled quickly and the games came, as advertised, within a few days. The packaging, however, was really disappointing. I'm used to seeing Joey here meticulously and perfectly bubble wrapping items and then carefully placing them within sturdy boxes. So I was pretty disappointed to see that our games came in a plastic mailer, all clumped together and half-heartedly wrapped in a single flimsy layer of bubble wrap. Luckily, nothing was damaged in shipping, but really, no thanks to DK Oldies. However, the condition of the games themselves, at first glance, was quite good. But a closer examination is in order. Here's the 10 games we ordered from DK Oldies. Mario Tennis here was in absolute immaculate condition. Here's the front of the cartridge, and here's the back. It was practically flawless. Opening up the cartridge revealed much the same. The game was clean as a whistle, and the pins here are in amazing condition. Of course, the game works well too. If you've never played Mario Tennis, well, it's a great tennis RPG for the Game Boy Color. And it uses a battery backup system to save. And the battery works. Outstanding. Then we have Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Fall of the Foot Clan, classic side-scroller by Konami. And as you can see, the game works perfectly and the cartridge itself is also in very good condition, both on the outside and on the inside. Then we have DuckTales, a personal favorite of mine. The game works perfectly and has some of the best chiptunes on the Game Boy. The cartridge is also overall in good condition. Squeaky clean on the inside with clean pins, and for being a popular game for small children, even the outside still looks great. Donkey Kong 94 is a must-have Game Boy game that came out the same year as Donkey Kong Country, but this game is arguably better, and as you can see, it works great. Again, the cartridge itself, inside and out, was, as advertised, in good condition. Here's Hamtaro for the Game Boy Color, a graphically impressive adventure game based on a cute anime for little girls from the 1990s. This is not mine, it's for my daughter, and it works great. However, this is the first game that wasn't in very good condition. The front cover looks fine, but this screw on the back was oddly stiff to work with and didn't really seem like it belonged in this hole. On the inside, everything was pretty clean except for some flux that someone left from a battery replacement. At least the battery was in fact replaced. More on that later. Next we have Wario Blast, a Bomberman game starring Wario, and the condition of this game was just okay. The outside of the cartridge looks pretty good. There's a little discoloration and it has some kid's name on the back, which is cool. The interior of the cartridge, however, was pretty dirty, and we had to clean it with some isopropyl alcohol and a Q-tip. The pins are a little worn out too. Now, DK Oldies has a whole cleaning team, and so far, as you can see, they've done a very good job at making these old cartridges look presentable. I mean, some of these games are in their mid-30s, but I really don't think that they take the time to actually open up these cartridges and clean the interiors. I mean, how could they? Their store has a massive inventory and routinely ships out many hundreds of games a day, maybe even thousands at Christmas time. They could hire more people to ensure every game gets opened up, but then that would drive the prices up even higher, and there's a point where that would put them completely out of business. Anyway, the next game was Harry Potter, cool little RPG for the Game Boy Color, and here we had the exact same problem. The game works absolutely fine and the exterior was in very good shape, but the inside of the cartridge was pretty dirty, and even after a couple of cleanings, we were still able to get a fair amount of dirt and grime off of the pins. Still, I'd consider this acceptable, like a standard eBay purchase really. So far, it's mostly all good news. Now let's take a look at the games that were more disappointing. First, let's examine The Legend of Zelda: Link's Awakening, arguably the greatest game ever made for the Game Boy. This is the original version, not the DX version, and I actually kind of prefer the original. Look how charming this is. The cartridge also looks to be in great shape, a little scuffed up here and there, but acceptable, and the interior is absolutely immaculate this time. Wow! But there's just one problem. The battery, which is necessary to save game data, is completely dead. So while the game boots up and functions properly, you can't actually save your game data, and that's bad. The Legend of Zelda without battery backup is unplayable. Probably someone at DK Oldies tested this game. It worked and they passed it along. but they didn't open it up, and they didn't test the battery, which is a task that can theoretically be done in mere seconds with an electrical multimeter. Well, this sucks. And then there's Kirby's Dream Land 2, another must-have Game Boy game with exceptional graphics and inventive gameplay. A classic, and again the cartridge was in good shape both inside and out. But the battery! The battery was completely dead, and this is another big game that really demands the players be able to save their progress. Not good. And finally we have Donkey Kong Country by Rare for the Game Boy Color, which is a very impressive, very accurate port of the SNES Classic. And this is the one time I can honestly say that DK Oldies did not do a good job at all. While the game plays just fine, the condition of the cartridge was pretty bad. You can see some staining here on the label where it looks like maybe something spilled on it, but once we opened it up we could see that there was a bunch of this brown gunk inside. And what you're seeing here is after we cleaned it up. I'm pretty sure that this is just a bunch of flux that was left over from the game's last battery change, which you can see the signs of here. And man, this is a sloppy soldering job. But at least this time someone bothered to change the battery. But not so fast. As with the last two games, sadly, Donkey Kong Country's battery was either dead or installed incorrectly. That means 3 out of 10 games we bought from DK Oldies were functionally unplayable. That means that almost half of all the games that came with batteries did not get tested by DK Oldies. And that strongly implies that DK Oldies does not actually open up their games to check them out on the inside. It's probably 100% that didn't get checked if you ask me. And this seems to confirm the most common complaint about DK Oldies, which is that they go out of their way to claim they refurbish games and consoles, when in fact they seem to only clean the exteriors. I'm guessing that someone at DK Oldies did test our games to confirm they boot up, but clearly not extensively. And certainly no one bothered to open up any of these cartridges, or else we wouldn't have 3 with dead batteries. Again, this isn't exactly a scam, but it's certainly not competent either. Now, DK Oldies does offer a 1-year warranty on all of their products, so I wrote them an email, and after a few days I finally heard back from a DK Oldies representative in the form of a cordial and professional email. They apologized and sent me a mailing label whereby I could send the games back for a repair. Of course, I still had to provide my own packaging, but thankfully, I enjoy selling games on eBay myself, so I was prepared. Then I mailed the games out, and I waited. After about a week went by, I contacted DK Oldies again. They responded with another professional email. I think they forgot about me. And after a couple of days later, I got word that our games were finally coming back to us. Then about another week later, we finally got our games, and yes indeed, they changed the batteries and the games now worked. The entire process of finding out the games didn't work, communicating with DK Oldies, and sending games back and forth through the mail took about a month to resolve. But to their credit, DK Oldies came through in the end. Eventually. It's great that DK Oldies fixed our dead batteries, but the truth is, this shouldn't have happened in the first place. According to a video posted by DK Oldies on September 19th, 2023, they take apart their items to clean them and look for necessary repairs. But the near universal testimony online is that this simply isn't happening across the board. It certainly didn't happen for me. Lots of people get consoles from DK Oldies and report that the interiors are dirty or come with flaws that should have been spotted by a technician when the console passed through their hands the first time. But how would that even be possible? DK Oldies boasts about filling hundreds if not thousands of orders on their best days. And you can see in the warehouse that they have these massive stacks of used consoles that pour in on a daily basis. Yes, a lot of people work at DK Oldies, doing a lot of different things, but I strongly doubt that they have a large enough team of technicians that can actually service every single one of this vast array of consoles, such that it could be called an authentic refurbishment. That would simply take far too much time and cost way too much money. To go through even one of these consoles, undoing every single screw and then cleaning and testing every relevant component would take even the most experienced technician hours. And if something were actually wrong, potentially a few hours. And that's just for one console. There's simply no freaking way DK Oldies could actually do this, unless they were to hire a massive full-time team. But that would ultimately drive their already high prices through the roof, past the breaking point. DK Oldies does have cleaners. DK Oldies does have technicians. But it's like a few people. And obviously they're trying. They really are, but they just can't keep up with these orders. And or Joey's millions of fans. This, I think, is the real reason for the 1-year warranty. I think that DK Oldies probably knows they can't keep up with demand, that they're not actually going to be able to perform a detailed rundown of every single console or every single game that comes through their door, and thus they've found a way to leave that up to you and me, the consumer, because they know a certain percentage of us will simply either not notice or care to do anything if something's wrong. And it's a lot easier to respond to individual sporadic issues as they come up than it is to prep thousands of old used video game consoles and games from the ground up every single time. If I'm right, then, well, DK Oldies isn't exactly doing what they describe online, and that would be dishonest. But at the same time, their 1-year warranty does in fact ensure that you get exactly what you paid for, or your money back, eventually. If and only if you yourself are willing to do a little bit of extra work. I don't think I can in good conscience call that a scam, but it is definitely incompetent. At the end of the day, DK Oldies mostly performed okay.
If you have a problem, please reach out to us and we'll fix it. Death threats just take things way too far.
But honestly, not better than any decent eBay seller with good reviews. Most of the games we received were in great shape. But 3 out of 10 not having a functional battery backup is abysmal. Thankfully, we did get replacements, and that's a good thing, but doing so also took too much time and was too much of a hassle. In light of this, I cannot honestly recommend DK Oldies, especially given the 50% higher prices. I certainly don't think it's a scam, but it's not a very good game store either, and I am probably never going to order anything from them again, at least not in the near future. I'm still probably going to watch Joey pack boxes or go through game collections from time to time. But now, whenever he does, I'm also probably gonna wonder, is any of this stuff actually gonna work? Probably, but probably just isn't good enough. So what do you all think about DK Oldies? Have you ever seen Joey fill an order? Let us know what you think and more in the comments. And thank you very much for watching Creative Cat Productions. Bye-bye now. And send help! Alright, I did it. I dunked on DK Oldies. So are you gonna let me go now? You are too soft! You honestly think a store that has prices set that high isn't a scam? Huh? I mean, DK Oldies isn't like super great or anything, but calling it a scam is just stupid. Stupid, huh? We'll see how stupid you think it is when I carve my initials upon your chest. Heidi-hoo! Joey, thank goodness you're here. That's in the... Wow, Joey, that's a good one.
Just like Petey, just like Jim, all those people down there, Jesse, everybody that you see sharing, they all got entered in the giveaway. Just share the live stream, send it to a friend. That's the thing. Don't send it to like the private, the DK Oldies fan group we have. Everybody already knows us there. This is supposed to work both ways. I'm helping you out by getting you involved into our giveaway. You help out by sharing that stream to somebody else who might not know about it. Help it grow a little bit. If you like this kind of stuff, leave a like on the video. It's all of this sort of stuff that I can take back to the bosses and say, look how many likes we're getting. Look how many people are sharing and wanting to get involved in the community. They can expand my budget. I can get more time here for doing live streams.